Thank you so much, Tim. So tell me a bit about your background and who you are. And
so Geeta, I've lived in England most of my life and trained as a doctor and a paediatric emergency doctor in England. Then moved across to Perth about 10 years ago now, and love living here.
Yes.
And now work in a fairly busy emergency department on the west coast of Australia. As I said before, I'm trained as an adult paediatric emergency doctor. I'm going to start again.
Yes.
I'm trained as an adult and paediatric emergency doctor, but principally enjoy paediatrics more than anything else. As well as doing paediatric emergency medicine, I've also got a real passion for lifestyle medicine, because for the last probably 20 years, I've looked at medicine and always had this feeling that we're constantly looking for cures and giving people, constantly looking for symptoms and giving people treatments, but rarely really looking for the cure. And I've always believed that most chronic diseases are a result of the way we live. And I've always thought, therefore, if that's the way we live and we're causing diseases that way, then how we live can also treat those diseases.
Absolutely.
So,
and have you noticed
so I've had this real passion for lifestyle medicine as well as emergency medicine.
Yes.
And that's me in a nutshell, really. I've also got a couple of beautiful kids and a beautiful wife.
Yes. Absolutely gorgeous. And have you noticed an increase in people coming into the emergency department and emergency rooms with conditions that are due to lifestyle, such as eczema, arthritis, anxiety?
Without a doubt. If I give you a bit of background, I've been a doctor now for 25 years. And 25 years ago, when I was in an emergency department, the bulk of our work was trauma or accidents or proper accidents or illnesses that really required us to jump in quickly and do something to save your life. Yeah. I would say over the last 15 years or so, I've seen a massive increase in chronic diseases. And a chronic disease is essentially a disease that you can't catch off someone else. Right. So an infection you could catch. A chronic disease like an autoimmune disease or eczema or arthritis or diabetes are all a result of something that you've done across the years or something that has happened in your environment. Yes. And I've seen a massive rise. And interestingly, a lot of people think about these chronic diseases and think, well, I'm getting old. That's why I'm getting these diseases. But kids are disproportionately being affected with lifestyle diseases now. So just an example, eczema is one of them. Diabetes is another. We used to think diabetes was a condition of old people. We have so many children now developing diabetes. It's astronomical. So yes, without a doubt, we've got chronic diseases now that are going through the roof.
So if we touch on eczema, so you're seeing people come in, children, and do you see adults come in as well into the emergency for eczema, or is it mostly children?
More so children, absolutely. So in terms of eczema, most children will develop eczema in the first year of their life.
Right.
And the textbooks will say that the majority of kids will grow out of eczema by about 6, 7, 8 years old. Yeah. That is true for a lot of children, but there are still a lot of children that continue into their teens and then into adulthood. But predominantly, we see younger children with quite severe eczema, and then we do see lots of adults. But most adults will come in with eczema, see it on their skin, but they don't often come in for emergency treatment, unlike children who do.
Yes. And what would you recommend if somebody was to come into the emergency, a child or baby or infant? What do you recommend typically for your patients?
So when it comes to eczema, well, there's two folds for that. You can either treat the symptoms, or you can try and treat the cause. And most parents come in to the emergency department because their child has got really dry skin, it's really irritated, it's really red, it may be weeping, it may be infected.
Mm-hmm.
It's keeping the child up at night, keeping the parents up at night. And so the mainstays of symptom control with eczema, if you've got skin that isn't infected, it's just really dry, really itchy, you want to keep it wet. You want to moisturize the skin as much as you can.
Yes.
And because eczema is an inflammatory condition, so the skin really dries out.
Yeah.
And to create that barrier on top of the skin, you want to keep an oily moisturizer or an aqueous moisturizer as much as you can on the skin.
Yeah.
Now, that's the mainstay of treatment for mild or irritant eczema. And the biggest thing that I see with parents is we tell them to keep the skin really dry. We give them the sort of aqueous moisturizers that you can put in the bath, aqueous moisturizers they can place on the skin after the bath. And we tell them that the skin always has to be glistening. If it's not glistening and shiny, they're not putting enough on.
Yes.
And time again, parents will come back in and you'll see their kid and their skin is dry.
Oh.
And they'll say, well, I put it on 5 times today.
Yeah.
And you say, well, you've got to put it on 20 or 30 times a day because you've got to keep that barrier there.
Cannot moisturize enough.
You've got to put moisturize, and keep it moisturized. And at the same time, avoid drying it out. So avoid soaps, avoid anything with alcohol in. So you want to do that sort of stuff.
Ended up in emergency was because Mia had a severe staph infection that had taken over. So she was puffy and swollen, and so that's when you would step in with antibiotics to treat the infection as well. Is that right?
Absolutely. So on our skin we have billions of different bacteria, but a few common skin types, and our skin provides a barrier from these bacteria impregnating us, and they're causing the infection. When you get eczema, you get cracks in the skin, and these bacteria can come in and cause infection. And absolutely, if you do get staph infection, you want to go straight to antibiotics. When it comes to antibiotics, I'm a true believer that there are some conditions that we really do need antibiotics for.
Absolutely, I wholly agree.
But there are so many conditions that we don't, and we have massive overprescription of antibiotics, and that's one of the causes potentially of conditions like eczema.
Right.
And so, but when you do get a staph infection, without doubt, we need to use antibiotics.
Absolutely.
And also, before the staph infection, if you ever get really irritant skin, doctors will sometimes prescribe steroid cream as well.
Yes. And how does that work? That works just to topically control the eczema?
Yeah. So again, eczema it's an inflammatory condition. So when you talk about inflammation, you've got heat and redness in the skin, and the steroid sort of suppresses the immune response and decreases that inflammation in the skin.
Got it. Okay, so if we